Hey, this is Billy Freddy's, and in this video, I want to talk to you about how to write a book or an ebook because I get this question a lot. Now, I've written a few books, and I'm also a blogger and a writer, and I'm also helped a lot of writers and authors to be able to write their books, publish them, and do very, very well with it. And so, my outcome with this video is to be able to help you get started to write your own book, but not just get started, but to also finish it because that's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is for you to complete your book so that you can publish it, you can get it out there and start making money from it, you can have an impact, and you can have your message be heard. You don't want your message to die at your list. And unfortunately, I see that happen time and time again with many authors and aspiring authors that's out there. So I want to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. I see a lot of authors, they get started on writing the book, and sure enough, they don't finish it. They make writing a book be this ginormous task in their mind, and they procrastinate, they're perfectionists, and they never get done. So I'm going to share some tips and strategies with you in this video that can help you to actually write your book and actually finish it. Now, I think one of the biggest hurdles that a lot of authors and writers have is that they make writing a book to be this big task. It's just this ginormous thing in their head that's just so overwhelming for them that they don't even know how to get started with it. It's almost like this mountain that they have to climb. It's unachievable, it's unattainable. And anytime you look at it at anything in that big of a perspective, that big of a way, the chances of you actually doing it and getting started, actually finishing it, are slim to none. So I want to invite you to look at things in a bit of a different way, to have a different perspective, a different mindset on this, because from my experience, 80% of success is psychology and only 20% are the mechanics. I've heard that from Tony Robbins. And when you change the way you look at things, so the things that you look at change. So I want to invite you to look at things in a different way. I want to invite you to take this big task of writing a book and instead chunking it down into smaller, more achievable pieces. Because when you look at a book, all a book really is a series of chapters. And when you start to look at it that way, as just a series of chapters, and all of a sudden it becomes a lot more achievable, doesn't it? It becomes a lot easier for the mind to wrap your head around and to get started on. And writing a chapter is a lot easier than writing a book. And one thing that has really helped me, because I do some blogging and writing, is I look at a chapter as just a blog post, an article. And when I look at it that way, a blog post for me might be a couple of hundred words or a couple of thousand words. When I look at it that way, I'm like, you know what? I blog. I can write a blog post. It's not that hard, and that could be a chapter. And so that's just another perspective, another way of looking at this big thing and making it smaller. So if you're to chunk it down even further, though, you can look at a chapter as just a series of paragraphs. Now, how hard can it be to write a paragraph? Now all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier for you to actually stomach it, and get yourself something to do. A series of paragraphs is just a series of sentences. And a series of sentences is just a bunch of words. And a bunch of words are just a bunch of letters. And so when you break it down into smaller bite-sized steps, it becomes a lot easier for you to actually do this. And I think that's a very important thing. Now, a lot of authors and writers, they also procrastinate. And I think that's most of the process, most of the delay that a lot of authors have in actually completing their book. They have this goal of writing a book, and maybe you get started, you write a little bit of it, you procrastinate to finish it because, again, you're making it so big. Another strategy that's really helped me to get myself to take action and do it is beginning to link pain to not doing it. So first, let's look at what procrastination is. Procrastination is when you know you should do something, but you don't do it. And the reason you don't do it is because you link and associate pain to doing it. So, maybe in your mind, you make it too big, too overwhelming, too much work or effort or time. That's all pain. When the more you link pain to something, the chances of you doing it are very slim to none, because human beings will do almost anything to avoid pain. We don't like pain. It's not till when you have a project that's due or a book due, you always get it done in the last minute, because all of a sudden that the pain of not doing it far exceeds the pain of actually doing it. So that's what kind of reverses itself, procrastination. So what you need to do in order to get yourself to be motivated and overcome that procrastination is to start to link and associate pain to not doing it, to not completing the book and taking action on it. And so I have a few questions for you that are designed to help elicit some pain. Pain is a good thing if you can use it and channel it to take action. We all experience pain in our lives. It's not a bad thing. The point here is to get yourself a little bit disturbed, a little bit unsatisfied, so that you can leverage on yourself, so that you can get that threshold to actually do something and write the book. So let me ask you, and I want you to be honest, why is it a must for you to write this book? Why is it a must for you to write this book? Why is it important for you to write this book? Why is it important for your potential readers, your audience out there, to write this book? What is it going to cost you in your life if you don't write this book? If you don't get your message out there, if you're not heard? What is it already costing you in your life? What is it going to cost you just in your overall happiness, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your life, your relationships with others, your pride, your self-esteem? What is it going to cost you in the future? What's going to cost you 5 years, 10 years from now, if you're still stuck in this position that you are right now, of either not getting started or not even finishing it? What is that going to cost you? And again, the more honest you can be, the better, because you want to feel some pain. You want to get a little bit pissed off. You want to get a little bit disturbed, because that's creating leverage on yourself. The problem is, most people, they don't have enough reasons to actually follow through, to actually take action. 80% of success is psychology, but another way of saying that is 80% is why to do something, and only 20% is the how. If you have a strong enough why and reasons to do it, and it's actually real for you, then that will pull you towards writing your book every day and getting it done. So having those reasons, having that motivation, and associating pain to not doing it is what's going to allow you to take action. Another question that I have for you is, what's going to be the benefit and the gain of writing this book? What's the pleasure that you're going to get from it as well? How is this going to change your life? How is this going to change other people's lives? If you can start to associate pain to not doing it, pleasure to actually doing it, writing your book, then that's what's going to, again, pull you. So I want you to be honest with those questions. And that's kind of another tip, another strategy to help you overcome procrastination. I'm not going to talk too much about, that's just a tip that has helped me. And it can work for anything in your life. It's not just about writing a book. Now, another tip that I have for you, and, I'm sure you've already experienced this, that holds a lot of people back, is they get writer's block. They start writing. They can't get themselves to start writing because they're not in the right state. And what happens when you write, I found that you almost get, when you're successful at writing something, you get immersed in it, and you get this flow state. You get in a state where everything just kind of flows through you, and you get these insights, these ideas that's almost effortless. And when you can get yourself in that state when you're writing, you have a lot of power, and you get momentum as well, where time disappears, where 5-10 hours might go by, and you're like, oh my God, you've written so much. Being able to access that state on a consistent basis is your power to be able to write your book. And there's a few strategies that I have to get yourself into that state. One thing that I have, I can't give them all out to you in this video, but one thing is just having a ritual before you write. Having a ritual. I have a morning ritual that I'm passionate about. I think I've shared this on my YouTube channel as well, but I have a ritual before I coach someone or create a video or before I write, and I put myself into a peak state, and whatever state I need to be in to be able to have the best impact possible. And there's a few things that you can get yourself to do before you write. One thing that's worked for me is just going for a walk, engaging your body in some way, exercising, maybe is meditating, doing something to get yourself out of your head so that you can eliminate all those thoughts, all those distractions that you have in your head, and you can free up your mental RAM to be able to focus at the task ahead. And focus is very important. And also when you're writing too, I'll mention that. You don't want to have any distractions. You want to eliminate your cell phone, Facebook, email, other people that are around you. You want to be in a place where you can focus and get that momentum going. Studies show that if you get into that peak state, into that flow state, and you get interrupted and you get knocked out of it, it takes at least 20 minutes for someone to get back to that peak of that state. So that's why it's very important to not be interrupted in any way, so that you can allow yourself to remain in that flow state. Okay, it's very, very important. So being into that flow state is very important. Having a ritual that you do. One thing that I also do as well is I ask myself questions. I ask myself, why is this important? Why is this a must for me? Why do I care about the person that's going to read this? What's my outcome? What's the difference? What's the impact that I really want to make? And I just answered out loud. And when I start answering, I get excited. I get into a better state, and sure enough, it allows me to get motivated and to write a lot better as well. So in using your body, using your focus, having a ritual, being proactive before you write, not just being a reactive. If you're sitting there for hours and you can't get a sentence out, then you need to stop what you're doing. You need to go outside and go for a walk. You need to change your state, because when you get in a different state and you come back, you can do that writing effortlessly, easily. So changing your state is very, very important. Getting to that flow state and learning your triggers and how to get yourself there. Another thing that can help you with writer's block as well is something that I heard from an author, which is that you want to write from the waste bin, meaning that when you write, you want to almost write with the intention that this is just going to go in the trash. And what that does is that just going to release all that pressure that you put on yourself. Because, if you're a perfectionist and you're writing and, all that sentence wasn't good enough, you got to rewrite it again and again and again. That's inhibiting you from actually completing this task. That's the whole perfectionist mentality of that word as a writer. That sentence or that structure isn't perfect. And sure enough, that prevents you from actually getting into that flow state, getting momentum. So write for the waste bin. Write with an attitude that this is not going to be perfect, because nothing is. Another tip that I have from Dan Kennedy, who's a successful author and a speaker, a coach, an entrepreneur, a marketer, is he says he has something called the 80% approach. He actually has a book called the 80% approach. And he says that you can never do anything 100%, because 100% is perfect. And last time I checked, no one is perfect. Last time I checked, you're basically doing something that's unattainable for somebody out there. It's just going to drive you insane. So the 80% approach is really the value and the means of everything is really 80%. So you want to strive to do 80%. 80% is good enough. And yes, you could always make things better and improve it over time, but just aim to do 80%. That's a very important thing. So oftentimes when I write, I'm making spelling errors. My sentences don't make sense, whatever. I'm just trying to get into that flow. I'm just trying to express my ideas, my thoughts onto paper, onto a computer screen. And I'm just trying to get it out of me. I don't care how it looks, how it sounds, but I'm just kind of doing a mental mind dump and, just kind of trying to capture all the thoughts and ideas that I have and just writing it out the best that I can. And the one thing that's helped me, another tip, is using a timer. I like to use a timer or a stopwatch. I'd be like, okay, I have an hour, I have to write as much as I can on this chapter in an hour. And sure enough, you'll get a chapter done, but it might sound horrible. But then you can just go back and, improve it, make it better. It's just a draft. Other people look at it and they can make it better as well. At least you have that sense of urgency. I get a lot done. So that's really another powerful tip that I have for you as well, for that. So I've given you a bunch of things, and this might be, a lot of strategies and tips that have worked for me in writing book. I've covered a lot of psychology and the mindset. Psychology is the most important thing in terms of the actual structure of writing a book. One thing that's actually worked for me is having an outline. And so I map, what this book is going to look like, what the chapters are going to be, what's my outcome, what I want to accomplish in writing this book. And when you break it down, when you chunk it down in chapter to chapter, chapter 1 is going to be on this, chapter 2 is going to be on this, etc. I have it mapped out. And then I write, with each chapter, what's the most important thing I want to cover in this chapter? What do I have to say in this? What are the examples? What are the stories I want to use? What are all the points I want to make? And I'll just kind of put them out there in bullet point. And when you have that outline, it's a lot easier for you to now start writing with. Because now you can just look at the outline, chapter 1, and you can just get started writing it. And so having an outline ahead of time is very important, because if you're just trying to go from scratch, where you don't have everything mapped out in that way, that's going to be it's going to be very challenging for you. So make sure you have an outline in place. A great thing with that as well is that, maybe you have certain bullet points in each chapter. Well, you can now go to research when it comes to writing that chapter, research all the things you want to say about it. You can look online, you can get different quotes, get different ideas, all this other stuff out there by researching it, and you can include that in chapter as well. So hopefully that makes sense for you. I've shared a lot with you on how to write a book. Hopefully this has been useful for you. I also want to share with you there's a great online course, great video course, how to write a book in less than 24 hours, and the link is somewhere on this page. If you want to actually get over that procrastination and be able to write a book in a faster time, it doesn't have to be 24 hours. I mean, I've done it in 24 hours. Other people might take longer than that. The point of the program is to help you get started in writing the book and actually finish it. There's a lot of cool tips and strategies like this that will help you write a book. So I want to invite you into checking it out. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully take action and actually get it done. So I want to invite you to take action, subscribe to my video, and I'll talk to you soon.